Good afternoon. Welcome to Foys on Facebook. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Friday. As you see, Jerry's back with us today. Say
I was here last week.
No,
Last time.
No, you wasn't.
Oh, wasn't it?
We did a brief commercial show. You was here for, but
okay.
Anyways,
Well, thank you very much for all the people who contacted the store and me and asking how I was doing. Thank you.
He's feeling much better.
Yes.
Much better. So today's show we're going to talk about
beginner.
Yes, if you're new into pigeons or if you're getting back into pigeons. Is your phone off?
I'm sorry?
Is your telephone shut off?
Yes.
Ringer? Okay. So if you're new into pigeons or if you're getting back into pigeons and you have some questions, feel free to ask us. We'll be discussing vitamins, minerals, medicines, what you need in your loft perches, nest boxes, all that stuff. So whatever you have questions on, even if it's not about being new into pigeons, any questions, feel free to ask us.
Yeah, because in doing this type of a show, we're telling you what we think, but maybe we're not answering your question as to what you should do in a particular pigeon loft. So please don't wait until the end. A lot of people do, and we can't get their questions.
Also, we want to make a correction on 2 of the pigeons that were up for auction.
And it's Jerry's fault, so Jerry has to admit he made 2 mistakes. Okay. We're going to be talking about, let's just do this or I'll do it now. On the auction birds, as you know, we have an auction right after the show. And I had told folks that we had a pair of tipplers, and they are gorgeous. But I mentioned that they were great performing birds. Well, they're great performing birds, but in the showroom. These are not the flying tipplers. These are show tipplers. The body structure is a little bit different. On a showbird, it's kind of beefier, more just more powerful looking. Where a flying tippler is a small bird, very similar to a roller. And the other mistake, and I'll explain a little bit more during the auction, but I mentioned that we were going to have some albino racing homers. Well, I talked to the contributor of the birds, Dr. DiGregorio, and he told me that they are genetically pure albinos, but they are not a particular breed, other than to say they are from, they come down from Dr. Hollander through Johnny Blaine, but we'll talk more about that. So they're not racing homers.
Right.
Did I apologize enough and make it clear, Gina?
Yeah, and that lets, if people are watching, that lets them know that if they want to bid on it, they know exactly what they're bidding on. Veronica, can you?
And you, please, you know what we have, and if you're going to bid early. It just happens almost every show. Somebody tries to, like a regular auction, you try to be that last one, the last bid before he hits his gavel. Well, our gavel is 3:15. And if we don't have your email, you may have sent it at 3:10.
4:15.
4:15. You may have sent it at 4:10, but maybe didn't get here in time. So we apologize if that happens. So bid early and bid a lot. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to start the show.
What were we just doing?
I'm sorry, the topic of the show.
Jerry's back. Kim did a great job, but it was too easy on you.
I know she was.
You operate a lot better under not
I'm under a lot of pressure right now.
Right. Doesn't her hair look beautiful? Can I tell you why I'm sitting on this side and she's sitting on? No, I can't tell them that.
Well, you can tell why you're sitting on that side.
I'm sitting on this side because you had a colonoscopy, and it's great information. And if you've ever had a colonoscopy, the after effects is if you got to go, boom. So if I disappear, you know where I'm at.
You can expect anything to come from him.
Only on Foys on Facebook. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyways.
Now my face is red.
And I feel like mine is. So back to our regularly scheduled show. Good.
I didn't get bleeped on that, huh?
No. Okay, so what for beginners starting up into pigeons and a pigeon loft, what are some things they need to know?
Let me have those 2 books. I suppose this is a coincidence, but the old adage for an entrepreneur is if you want to run a business or start a business, learn everything you can about the business. So if you are getting into the hobby, whether it's just getting in for the fun of it, whether you're getting in because you want to race, you want to raise meat pigeons, or you want to show pigeons, or you just want pigeons for fun, as I said, it behooves you to learn as much as you can first before you build a loft. Now, when I say build a loft, in a lot of cases, people are going to use an old chicken coop or an old shed. If you ever come to my lofts, I have 5 of them, and 4 of them were built by Home Depot. I just call them up, they come, and they build the building from scratch in back of my house. They don't drive a big truck across my grass, and then I convert them into a pigeon loft. The point that I wanted to make when I said do a little bit of research, I'm very proud of this book. I wrote it, I think, a while back. Anyway, this book here, it's called Lofts of North America. Doesn't look like much. It's hard-covered, full color where possible. Some of my pictures were black and white. But it's the most extensive book ever written on the pigeon lofts and what the needs are. It's not inexpensive, but just think, what is it, $79? Pardon?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's around 70 something dollars, but $60 of that goes towards my signing of it. I was just kidding. But if you
Did
want
you
it,
sign the one out there?
yeah, I did sign one yesterday. If you would like the book, I'd be glad to autograph it too. But it's a great, great book. Lots and lots of colored pictures. And so if you're interested in building a loft or converting a loft, make the investment. You might find 1 or 2 ideas in here that'll save you so much trouble, because if you do it wrong the first time, in most cases, the average person will say, well, heck with it, I'll just get used to it. Shame on you. Why not get a little bit of a book and learn a lot of tips? The other book I wrote a while back is a pamphlet. It's called White Pigeons, the Color of Money. I tell people jokingly that it probably should have been called Pigeons for Dummies, but that name was taken already. Oh. So I call it White Pigeon Book. I wrote it for people who are getting into the white bird release business, the white dove release business for weddings and funerals. So it's all basic information, because so many people that get into the hobby, the white bird release business, I should say, are brand new people. They know there's an opportunity there. This business is mushrooming. Just if you're interested, now's the time. So this book is all the basic information you need, including things to do in your loft. So there's 2 good books. They both serve different purposes. So if you're thinking about getting into the hobby, or you're coming back, guys, because so many people are coming back to the hobby for whatever reason, and things have changed dramatically. And not just that all these new products are available, but where the biggest changes are pigeon health. We have all kinds of books for that too, but you'll be surprised at the way things have changed. Now, basics of, and I'm just rambling on. Do you want to take some questions now, or want me to ramble? No? Okay. Producer Veronica Burnsworth said, no, we have to do what she says. And she also has to do this. That means I'm slouching, and I have to sit straight because I have a tendency to slouch.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Richard Anderson, he said, Jerry, you said you got some of your loft from Home Depot. How did you do the inside of it for nesting boxes?
Okay. The first thing before you do anything inside is make sure that you face the front of your loft in the opposite direction that the weather is coming, because it's not the same. I know where my weather comes from. It comes from the west. My loft faces the east. So and my lofts have open traps. Even in the worst of weather, I get no rain and no snow in my loft because it's facing in the correct direction. So the biggest mistake you can make at the very beginning is to face your loft in the wrong direction. Sun comes up in the east, and if it's all possible, always face it towards the direction the sun comes up. Now, how did I convert it? What I did was I had them come in. I told them to put the door on the short end. Let's say I've got a 22-foot by 12-foot loft. So on the 12-foot side, they put the door. When the door opens up, I want to walk into a hallway. I don't want to walk into my pigeons. So my loft is 12 foot from front to back, and 4 feet of that is a space to walk in because I want enough room to carry my baskets, carry my feed, big trash can in there, and I want to be able to move around. So if you only make it 2 feet or 3 feet, it's just not enough. So my loft's 12 foot deep. It includes a 4-foot hallway, and the rest of it, 8 feet deep, is my loft. On the biggest loft, I have two of my lofts, I have 3 sections. So what I did was first I lowered the ceiling. I don't want 8-foot ceilings. My roofs are what they call gable. Go this way. So I don't want the bird to be able to fly up above me because that's probably 8 or 9 feet up there. So I lowered all my ceilings using 2x4s and covered the 2x4s from underneath with 1x2 wire, could be 2x2, and I stapled it to the 2x4s, which were 16 inches on center. That lowered my ceiling, and I have better control of my birds. That included the hallway. So I want 7-foot ceilings. If you're real tall, then of course you're going to go 7.5. If you're a small person, no, still you want to go 7 feet because you never know who can walk into your loft. All right, now from an inside standpoint, remember you're going to have 1 or 2 sections. I put all of my perches on the same wall. Doesn't matter which wall, although in my particular case, I'm putting them when I walk in the door to the section. Most of my, not all, but most of my nest boxes are on the left-hand side. I'm sorry, my perches are on the left-hand side. And the question is, what perches do you use? We've talked about it before, but my favorite perches are what's the little tiny one?
Space Saver.
A Space Saver, and what's my other favorite one?
Don't know that one.
Block perches.
Oh, yes.
They're both the simplest perches you could possibly have. And I don't use the V perches. I'm not trying to talk myself out of it, but I like to be able to clean very quickly. All the perches on the same side, the small perches, all the droppings go to the floor. Makes it so much easier to clean. I can clean a loft in a section in less than 5 minutes. It's sort of like when a woman does her house cleaning. You do in Pennsylvania, we call it red up. In some places, don't they?
Yeah.
They're going to red up the room. In some places, they're going to pick up the room. Or the easiest way to say it, they're going to do a light cleaning. So when I red up my loft, I do a very light cleaning with a pitchfork, pick up the droppings, put them in a box, and it makes it very easy. So perches on one wall. My traps, because I'm able to do it in most cases, are on the back wall. Now you don't have to do that, but that's where mine are. And I have a landing platform on the back, the length of the loft, and I have removable aviaries. Now, as far as nest boxes, here again, I've had it for a long time, and I truly believe that in most cases, simple. If you're not simple, if you're not simple, that's sort of like a stupid. If you're not simple, keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
No, that wasn't nothing special.
No.
Okay. I just used a plain old nest box. with no nest front, just an open box. But it will accept nest boxes if I want. So the boxes are all made the size to accept a 12 by 24 nest box front, or we also have the larger ones. And if I decide I want to put a nest box in there, I can. A nest front, I just put it on, turn a button. And I do that sometimes when I want to close up some nests. But the reason I do that is it's so easy to clean. I use a scraper, but not the push scraper. And I know a lot of this information is repetitive, and I've mentioned it before. But I like what do we call them? Trough? No, pull scraper.
Pull scraper?
Yeah, it looks like a little tiny hoe. You might be able to buy one at your local hardware store or whatever. But I put it to the back and pull the droppings, and I have a cardboard box underneath on the floor. Pull the droppings right into the box, and I dump my nest bowls because every time, usually my nest bowls are cleaned at least twice during the time the egg is laid and the birds are weaned because the droppings do grow. So I clean the nest bowls. But what I do is take the nest bowl out, put a brand new clean one in, and then I'll clean all the bowls at the same time. So now we've talked about the perches, we've talked about the nest boxes, we talked about the ceiling. My floors are all solid plywood. I do that because, once again, it's easy for me to clean. But the one thing I can do, even though I have 13 sections, most people can't afford it because it's fairly expensive to ship. But if you want to ship it, we do ship them just about every day of the week. We sell 44 pounds of floor covering, comes in a 44-pound bag. And every section, my 8 by 8 sections, takes 3 bags. So what I'll do is twice a year I clean everything out of the coop, throw all the floor covering, which is made of clay and has an anti-coccidiosis mixed in with it. I dump it in my garden. It becomes compost. And then I also have another gentleman who begs me for pigeon droppings, and I give it to him. You okay with that? Yeah. All right. So I've covered. So I go in with a pitchfork. I can clean the section in 5 minutes. We'll continue. I'll take a couple of questions because
comments and questions.
I'm running out of voice.
I'm running out for you, Jesus. Kevin said, "I have the White Pigeons book. Good book. It got me started on the right foot."
Thank you, Kevin.
And he also asked, "Are chambers for males and females and young birds necessary?"
Or what? I'm sorry.
Chambers?
Chambers. Kevin, I'm not sure what you mean by a chamber. So why don't you send it back in, and we'll get the question answered. I think I know what it is, but okay. Just send another question, a follow-up Facebook. Okay? Another question?
He also asked, "What's the best system to manage droppings?"
I just went through that.
Yeah, which pretty much just what you
floor
said.
Covering 2 to 3 inches thick. We sell them, but you can go to Home Depot and get these pitchforks. And it's ground up natural clay with no preservatives or anything in it except it's made for pigeons. That's all it's for. We bring it in from Europe, and I just use a pitchfork. And I can do it once a week, and like I say, one section, an 8 foot by 8 foot section, would take me 5 minutes.
Earl said, "Do not censor Jerry. Love his down home plain speak."
You like me talking about me pooping?
Oh my goodness. Anyway.
Oh, if my mother only knew what she created.
I can't really see the name, but they said, I have a homing pigeon hen that has had a broken or sprained wing for a while now, and her wing isn't getting better. What should I do? Is there something I can use to help her heal so she can fly again?"
Did you say broken and sprained or sprained?
Broken or sprained.
Nothing. Because if it is actually broken, there's a good chance it's healed incorrectly. Assuming you didn't take it to a vet who put a splint on it. So I have to assume you didn't. and if it is sprained, it may take a long time. Just like I know my wife Vicky sprained her ankle, and it's been years, and it still bothers her where she limps at times. So, in answer to your question, probably nothing you can do. Wish I could tell you there is, but I can't think of anything.
Gramus asked who
Gramus? Who Gramus?
asked who that young guy next to me is.
Hi, Gramus. I got some chores for you soon. We'll have to talk about it, Gramus. Gramus is a good friend. Well, pretty good friend. What are you laughing
Go
at? Did
ahead,
you say
I'll
something?
tell you. No, go ahead.
So, pretty good friend. And someday he might be doing this show.
Okay.
What were you giggling about?
Our favorite Steelers hater, Keith Wilkerson. How do you switch a dead Steelers bird to a great Ravens bird?
How do you switch a dead Steeler bird?
Steelers bird to a great Ravens bird.
Well, first of all, if I remember right, Steelers are hard-working steel men, coal miners, right? And aren't ravens scavengers?
They are.
Yeah.
They're scavengers.
So I would think a dead Steeler is probably a heck of a lot better than a live scavenger. I don't need to answer the question. Go on.
Next, Keith.
Was that Rick Wilkerson?
No, Keith Wilkerson.
Okay.
Okay, next, on to the show. Back to the show.
Okay. We're going to talk some more about...
yes.
Okay. Because I have information, and I want to... Well, let me just mention this first, and then I'll go back to the lofts. A pigeon great passed away on Monday. I knew him well, admired him. Claire Hedlund. And if you've read the information in our catalogs or seen his picture in our catalog, Claire is who I bought the pigeon business from, coming on to 20 years ago. And none of us, my whole family, wouldn't be part of this great thing that we have if it wasn't for Claire Hedlund. And I've told the story, but Claire was a gentleman, very, very gracious, and he made it possible for me to buy the loft financially and gave me a payment program kind of a thing to help me out. So if you knew Claire Hedlund, keep him in your memory. And I hope this doesn't sound like a pitch, but one of the best things we can do now when we lose people or want to honor people in this great pigeon hobby is to make a contribution. You can send it to me here at Foys, to Legacy Fund Trust. And once we reach 100, and we're going to do that because my company is going to make sure, but once we reach $100, Claire's name will be on the National Pigeon Association honor roll forever, twice a year. Once it gets to 500, he moves into a different category, and then once it gets to 1,000, it gets into a really nice category. And the only memorial we've ever had in the NPA that has reached 1,000 for an individual was our good friend Dr. Pigeon. He was first, and I remember our total contributions to the Legacy Fund Trust for Dr. Pigeon was $996, and we sent in the rest of the floor because it had to be $1,000. So Legacy Fund Trust, in memory of Claire Hedlund, send it to me. The check is made out NPA, National Pigeon Association, LFC, Legacy Fund Trust. Just put down in the memory of Claire Hedlund, and I'll take care of it for you. When it comes to, we're going to take a question? Or
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And I think we'll talk as much as we can about the loss, but it doesn't mean we can't continue next week if we have too many questions. Hello?
Hold on. She got to move it up some
We have
because
a
it's not
technical
falling
problem.
in place.
You're blocking the screen. Go ahead, walk across.
Okay. Cam says, I have a homing pigeon hen that is 6 years old, and when we lay eggs, she lays little ones and one egg at a time. Nothing hatches out of them. Is
Probably.
there a product that
I'm sorry.
that would help her lay normal size eggs?
And I was going to say, probably rough. I don't know. Is that Cam from
No.
Hawaii? No, okay.
It's a different one.
If the bird is 6 years old, what's going on?
No, she
Are
goes.
we having problems?
No,
Okay.
just go ahead.
She's blocking the screen.
No, she's okay.
Okay. We are professional. Anyway, when you go ahead. Talking about a bear and a hen, I don't think there's anything you can do. A 6-year-old bird is not a young bird, it's not an old bird, but it's getting there. The options, of course, the ones I've talked about before, is to split the pair up, put her onto a different male, could be the male's problem, make sure she has plenty of calcium. Or if you don't separate the birds, get her out of there for a little bit of time, maybe put her in isolation for a couple of weeks, and then introduce her to a new male and see if that doesn't work. I probably, if I had to guess, it's ongoing. Call me if it does change, but I would imagine you'll probably never see another good egg out of her unless it's one of the things I mentioned.
Grandma's had mentioned, had replied to her question about the fertility pills. So, no, I'm just saying that he replied to use the fertility pills.
Fertility. Oh.
Yeah.
And we do have, I guess, I understand what Thomas is saying, but in all due respect, Thomas, hi, Thomas, I don't think it's a fertility issue. I think it's a internal issue, and I think it's a female problem.
Okay. We had a question before the show. Paul asked, does the cold weather affect eggs from furling when you start breeding season?
Cold weather, let's say it's 15 or 20 degrees outside, probably not. We had one day where we had 6 below zero, and I lost 4 nests of young. They all froze, but some didn't. So in answer to your question, depending on where you live, if it goes to an extreme, yes, it can affect them, and especially if the parents are young birds. If this is their first round, they're really just like people, very, very young children raising children, so to speak. So if you have a bird that's 9, 10, 11 months old, it hasn't learned yet. So basically, it's going to, most of the losses are going to come from your young birds, and that's where mine came from.
It's halfway through the show, so now is our Ask Anything segment, so feel free to ask us anything other than Raven's questions. But ask us anything but pigeon questions. You can still put your pigeon questions.
So, yeah, you can throw the questions, but a lot of people wonder about the background of Foys, about our business, how we grew, and we have grown tremendously. And sometimes we're negligent in saying thank you. This show, I think the last show we had 67,000, Veronica, right around almost 70,000 people stop in and take a peek at what we're doing. So we thank you for watching, but geez, this when my daughter Kim and Gina backed her up, did I say Gina?
You did.
Yeah, and when I'm tired, my main accent comes out. And I was in the doctor's office, and we won't tell you why. If you missed the beginning, you didn't miss anything. But we were in the doctor's office, and I was reading a magazine, and it said exactly, almost word for word, what the girls told me. The time for print advertising is pretty much over. It's a waste of money. Social media is where it's at. And doing this show has really spiked our business. Gina, maybe, and I know we're just rambling, but tell them a little bit about what's coming. It's not ready yet, but it's coming.
What?
The split screen thing.
Oh,
We're just going to talk a little bit about it. It's not available yet.
it is.
We can't talk about it?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Well, it's all part of this show, but we can have special guests be a part of the show that don't have to be sitting right here with us. You can be at your home or at your office, and we can, what's the terminology? Interact with you, and you can be right on the screen with us.
Just like you see on national television, where
Right.
you see the moderator and then pictures in the background, and those people are joining in the
A
conversation.
news reporter in London and one here, and yeah, so just like that.
That excites me because we're going to get Dr. Botha from South Africa. I'm hoping to get Dr. the vaccine. There's so many opportunities. One of the most well-received shows we did was when we had John Hepner, the former president, but a great, very knowledgeable. I'm hoping to get him. So sometime in the near future, there'll be a split screen. Put the picture of John Hepner there, and then I'm going to delete Gina, so she's not going to be on anymore. It'll just be me and him. I'm excited about that. Go ahead.
Cam asks, how do you keep your paper nest bowls from moving around in the nest box? Because his moves around.
I don't use paper nest bowls. I use clay nest bowls, and as I've mentioned before, I like them because they're heavy and won't move. And what I do is, if I have 12 nests, I'm using 24 nest bowls. I'm not saying you have to do that, but what I do is I go in, take the dirty bowl out, put a clean one in, and I always take a handful of straw and put it on the bottom of it. Especially, of course, if there are eggs or young in there, I take the eggs and young out and I form the straw and mash it down, put it in a brand new bowl, and then clean that bowl and have it ready for the next time. If you're using paper nest bowls, a couple of things you can do. Get yourself some double-sided tape. And clean the floor of the nest bowl real clean. Stick it to the bottom of that paper nest bowl and push it down onto the floor of the nest box, and it won't move around. The other thing you can do is just by using thumb tacks, push down, and it'll also hold them in place. So pretty simple. Another thing you can do, and it's more permanent, is get yourself a couple of small pieces of wood, the size of the nest bowl, and you put one this way and one this way, L-shaped, against the walls, and you put your paper nest bowl in there and it can't slide around. Great question. That's what this show is so, to me, so important to all of us is somebody else has that same question and hasn't asked it. And we've had, and probably a lot of people who have that same question. Now all of those people have an answer.
Tiffany said, we are still getting snow and temps below 15 degrees. When should we begin our breeding season?
You think I should be called a pigeon whisperer?
If you'd like.
What do you guys think? Should we take a vote? Maybe?
Go ahead.
Pigeon whisperer? I wonder if that name's been taken yet. There's the horse whisperer, chicken whisperer. Or should I be called Dr. Jerry?
Whatever you want.
No, that's not what I want.
What do you guys think?
Let me know what you think. What was the question?
If the temps are below 15 degrees, when should she start breeding?
Well, right now. I started breeding Thanksgiving weekend, and I told a little bit of a story earlier that we got down to 6 below and it was a problem. But generally speaking, with the understanding that if they're very young birds, first time or second time mating, you'll have more of a tendency to lose them. But I don't heat my lofts, and I start breeding, putting them together in November, the end of November, so that I start having babies in January, and we're in a cold climate.
And just so you know, it was snowing here today too. Just a little bit, but we still had snow today.
Yeah.
Joshua said, great idea, guys. I would love to pick on Jerry for you. Thank you, Joshua.
Joshua, what have I ever done to you? What have I ever done to deserve even one? That's a song.
Oh, okay.
Can we ban Joshua from the show?
No way. He's on my side.
Oh.
What minerals or vitamins do you recommend to give your racing pigeons when they're breeding?
Do we have it here?
What?
Ultra Pro?
Yes.
Okay. Ultra Pro is my choice. We have a lot of vitamins, supplements, pigeon builder, just a lot of vitamins. And the reason we have so many is it's a choice. When you walk into any store, if there was only, let's say you wanted to go in and buy a shirt, if you only had one shirt, you'd be disappointed. So there's a variety. Same thing with us. I use Ultra Pro. Ultra is from the ultimate vitamin in it, and Pro is because of the probiotic. I get so many compliments on birds that I ship, and then want to know how I get that perfect smooth feather. It's Ultra Pro, but not Ultra Pro once a week. To be perfectly frank, 5 days a week, my bird, at least five, sometimes six, there's Ultra Pro in the water. I use the thought pattern that vitamins don't stay in your system. Probiotics don't necessarily stay in your system for a long period of time. I want to make sure they're getting it, and Sundays is usually clear water day.
Okay.
So my choice would be Ultra Pro. Or if you want, buy the Ultra Pro. Buy the Ultimate Vitamin and choose your own probiotic or any other way you want to do it.
Keith Wilkerson asked a question for his friend. Young birds in a nest will about 2 to 3 weeks old. They're growing well, almost fully feathered, eating well. Next day, they're dead. Following day, the nestmate dies. No loose droppings, just sudden death.
As far as the timing goes, most of you folks have heard me say this before. A pigeon right around 21 days is without an immune system. It's left the parents have stopped feeding it, and the immune system that it inherited from the parents is gone. And now it's starting to build its own. But at that critical time, between 21 and 28 days, if there's anything in the loft, they're going to get it. So you can be sure it's not the young bird's problem, it's something from the rest of the birds. The older birds can fight it off, and the young birds don't have that strength in the immune system to fight it off. So what I tell people, if it's happening to you on a regular basis like that, a couple of things you can do. Contact us and we will give you some information as to where to send the bird to get a complete necropsy. And that will tell you what's wrong. If you choose to do that, it might be $100, something like that, for a complete necropsy, including a viral check. And if you choose to do that, don't make the mistake of picking up this dead bird and putting it in the freezer. You've ruined it. And generally speaking, we can't ship a bird to the veterinarians after Wednesday. So if you have a bird and put it in a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, or a shopping bag and tie it tight, put it in the refrigerator and call us and we'll tell you where to ship it. You have to pay, but it will answer your question. If not, what I would suggest you do, put them on amoxicillin. And if it's possible to segregate the young ones, it's better to do that. But if not, put them on amoxicillin, 21 days. Now, I know that sounds like a long time, but amoxicillin is broad spectrum and safe. You can use it during breeding season. And being broad spectrum, it treats a lot of different things. So that would be my first. Well, actually, price or cost wasn't an issue. I talked to a gentleman today, basically very similar in that he had babies in a nest dying at 3 days of age. And it's been an ongoing problem. It went on last year. And the medicines he's using seem to work, and then they don't work at all. Very quickly, it goes right back to it. So he is actually sending a 3-day-old young one when it dies, because he knows he's got 5 pair are going to hatch this weekend. We're going to have him send them to a veterinarian It's not the ideal situation because the young ones are hard to run in the necropsy on, but the vets are going to try and see what his problem is. Did I go on too long with that?
No, but I had a question. You said put it in a bag, in a plastic, but do they put it in a refrigerator?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't freeze it.
Don't freeze it.
Yeah, you're not listening to me because
I am,
did
but
say that.
you did not say put it in a refrigerator. They could put it in a plastic bag and sit it there.
Folks, you watch the show. Send in a message if she's wrong that I did mention put him in the refrigerator.
Did he? I didn't think so.
Oh God, Veronica said I didn't either. Okay, do we have another question?
Yes.
Okay.
In my breeding loft, all different droppings. It's like fall season. You see a lot of different colored leaf in your yard. Yellow, green, light green, not watery.
Did you just put the birds together? Is that what it said? Or breeding season?
In his breeding loft.
Yeah. When the breeding season starts, especially if you separate the birds, when you put the bird together, it's very, very stressful. The male's all excited, the female's all excited, especially if they've been mated before. So you're going to see all different colors droppings from stress. If it continues, then you probably have an issue. You can send the dropping samples in to us, attention Sherry, and we'll have a veterinarian look at them under a microscope. What are you giggling at?
Nothing.
Geez, see what I have to put up with. Two women, I'm talking, I'm trying to be serious, and they're over there laughing. Oh, no. Where was I? You interrupted me.
No, I was laughing.
So anyway, send a sample of the
yeah,
droppings in if you do have an issue or a question. But I think it's a natural thing. The other question we get right around this time of year or when the birds start breeding is how come the droppings in my loft are, in the morning when I come in are so big and smelly? And that's because the hen sets on the egg from 5 o'clock in the evening all the way until 9 or 10 the next day. So when she comes off, she's like me with a colonoscopy. You gotta go, you gotta go. And it's big and it's smelly. No, God. See what happened? You told me
Anyways,
to get into that.
I stand corrected. 2 people said you did say refrigerator. I apologize. I can admit when I'm wrong. I'll have to go back and watch it.
She's stubborn. Run kitchen for my mother.
Uh-huh. Another question from Joshua. Wait, no, not Joshua. Russell. When winter breeding, do you have water for them at all times or just dumping out the water and letting them have water till it freezes? Myself, I wait until weather is warm enough that the water does not freeze during the day.
Want to answer?
No, go ahead.
You know the answer.
You always have water.
Because you've helped me water the birds in the wintertime.
Right. Usually in the winter, you water them twice.
No, I do not.
Sometimes when it's real cold.
No, I don't.
I have done it for you.
No,
but anyway,
I was taking advantage. If you're willing to do it, that's great. But with all kidding aside, I water once a day. The birds very quickly learn they better get a drink or they ain't going to get a drink because it's going to freeze solid. And the young ones are fine because as soon as you put the water out there in the morning, all of the birds are down there drinking, going to feed their young ones, coming down and drinking again. Because as soon as it's froze, and I've said this so many times, I use those green crock drinkers that hold 1 gallon of water. I go in the morning, if it's froze solid or iced over, it doesn't matter, I'm going to change it anyways. I knock it against a block wall outside, put a new one in that's clean, and the one that I just knocked the ice out of, I take back into the house, clean them in the laundry tub. I used to clean them in the kitchen sink, but my wife thought that wasn't a good idea. So the girls tell me to clean in a laundry tub if you want to have a happy marriage. And the new one's ready to go. Am I or not? Did I ever tell you I know the guy that wrote that?
Wrote what?
Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Oh, no.
Sometimes you don't. I was down, a fellow in Florida raised white pigeons. I sold him the white pigeons, but it turned out that he also had a charter boat, charter fishing boat. And I love to fish, so me and a couple of friends chartered his boat. And we went down and we got to talking about pigeons. And on the boat, I don't know how it came up, but sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Turns out the man wrote that jingle, and he was a country western singer. And one time in a bar, he was playing the song, and it was Sometimes You Feel Like a Nut. And there was a producer in the audience, spoke to him after. Who is that? Planters Peanuts?
Okay.
One of the big peanut companies, that's their jingle. And for a long time, he got a lot of money. Now he says it's tapered off, but whenever that jingle is sung commercially, then he gets a piece of the action. Almond Joy. Okay, thank you, Veronica. Almond Joy sometimes. But anyway, is that pigeons? Well, it relates because sometimes people do call me and ask me about feeding peanuts to pigeons. So maybe a pigeon feels like a nut, and maybe it doesn't. Oh God! See what happens when I'm off for a week. All right.
Anyways, next question, Tiffany. Should the birds be separated by sex when it's not breeding season? I have heard so many answers.
Well, there's no right answer. The ideal situation is yes, but not everybody has enough room to do that. So the second best thing is what I do in most cases is I remove all the nest boxes. It gives me the opportunity to clean all my nest boxes and take them out of the loft. And the only place they can possibly lay eggs is going to be on the floor, and they're less likely to do that. And if they do, I throw the eggs away and I put wooden eggs under it. I got my rollers are all under wooden eggs now because I don't want to raise any rollers. Every roller I've got is sold. So you put a wooden or plastic egg under, and the pigeons don't know the difference. And within 18, 19 days, they're going to leave them. You just feel them. If they're cold, you know they left them, and the whole cycle may start again, but you've delayed the process.
Okay. Hi, Mandy.
Lots of questions. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is.
What do you think if we went to a 2-hour show?
No.
Oh.
Negative.
We take a vote on that?
No.
No. Oh, by the way, we do have an auction coming up in 10 minutes. We have a pair of albino pigeons. We have a beautiful pair of show tipplers. And the third pair is racing homers. A very unusual.
Not racing homers.
Yes, the lavenders. You'll sit corrected.
Okay.
All right, so, and we'll have a pair of lavender racing pigeons.
I meant the albinos, my fault. Because you cut me off and you threw me off. I was going to say something.
You're easy.
Oh, I was going to say I'll make an executive decision and say no about the 2-hour show.
Look at all the notes I have.
And we didn't even go over.
We haven't talked about any of them.
I know. So, but we do real quick need to talk about some of the, we did talk about vitamins, but some of the medicines and other stuff that you should have in your loft if you're a new breeder. Or,
okay. The first thing I always recommend is Ultra Pro or something like that for a nutritional nutritional addition to the drinking water. Grit. Got to have grit at all times, but very, very important when you are breeding. And you don't put the grit out and change it in a week or two. Just put enough out so they eat almost all of it, and what's left in the morning, throw it away and put another little bit amount to it. So grit is important. If you're medicating with the grit, if the medication, you look at the ingredients, if it ends in the letters.
What? Oh, recycling.
Thank you.
I was reading a question.
Oh, you were sleeping. CYCLINE. If you see chlorotetracycline or anything that ends in cycline, take the grit away while you're medicating. Want to go on?
Yes.
Feed. The biggest mistake almost everybody makes is they feed too much. A slightly hungry pigeon is going to be a lot healthier than a bird where you're putting the feed out all the time and leaving it there. So keep them hungry. You'll know that. When I walk into my loft, I want to see those birds up against the screen. They know I'm going to feed them. And one of the drawbacks, if you do leave feed there all the time, is you're going to attract rats and mice. Because at night, those rats, those mice, if they're in the area, are going to know that's feed there. And once they know they've got a continuing source of food, why would they go anywhere else? So if the best you can do is just go out every night and take the feed trays out if you want, but you should not be feed in the trays unless you absolutely have a reason for doing it.
So are you saying it's better to be underweight than overweight?
Yeah, like you.
Thanks.
Take it any way you want.
Well, I'm not underweight, that's for sure.
Well, I lost 10 pounds last week.
I know you did.
You're about to
gain it all back.
Can I tell you how this whole 10-pound loss
No,
works?
because we only have a few minutes.
Okay.
And
I hope we're not kidding too much. I do take this serious, but God, it can't be fun.
Can you keep chickens around pigeons?
No.
No, Keith. No.
Not in the same building. No. I have chickens and I have pigeons, but I don't want them in the same building. There are diseases that can cross. So if you have chickens, fine, but they should not be either not in the same loft building or as far away as possible.
Hold on. I treat with all-in-one before breeding season. Now all the eggs hatch and babies in almost every nest. When I was cleaning nest boxes, I noticed a lot of worms around the nest. Is there any worms I can use during breeding? Any wormers?
It's probably not worms. It's probably maggots. And your nest bowls and nest boxes have to be cleaned on a regular basis. If you have a lot of droppings that build up, you're going to have maggots. If you see worms, and it is worms, those are round worms, because all the other worms are too small to be seen by the naked eye, with the exception of a tapeworm. So clean that nest bowl out. Make sure that the droppings are in a nest box. Don't go to the floor. Get rid of them. And I don't. Am I allowed to say I don't like 5-in-1?
You can say whatever you want.
It's our biggest seller, isn't it?
It's a big seller, yeah.
I don't like to use antibiotics unless I need them. So I always recommend, if you want to use a multi-purpose product, 3-in-1. 4-in-1 has an antibiotic. 5-in-1 has an antibiotic. They're very widely used. I guess 4-in-1's probably our biggest seller. I don't know, but I like 3-in-1: canker, coccidiosis, and worms. And if it's not maggots, and you'll probably know maggots are real small, bunched up, crawly things. If it's roundworm, they're a little bit bigger. If you have that, you could buy just a roundworm product, but there are a lot of different wormers in our catalog, and roundworms are the easiest one to get rid of. But if you use it, if you treat for roundworms, every day, clean out that nest box completely and clean it into a pan or a box so that the droppings don't go down on the floor, because it doesn't kill roundworms, it paralyzes them for a reason. So you don't want the worms on the floor. I'm gone.
I know, it's almost over. Tiffany asked, what grit do you suggest?
Which what book?
Grit.
Grit. They're all good. If it's made for pigeons, it's good. Now, if you want to ask me, the Natural company, Natural sounds like they make all natural products, but the Natural company makes a grit. We import it from Europe. It's a great grit. It's what I use.
Okay. Another question from Wade on homers. They breed and fool around, and then after about 10 days, she makes a nest. Looks like she's going to lay eggs, and then nothing. After 3 or 4 days of that, she pulls apart the nest and then starts all over.
Separate the pair. One or the other's got an issue, unless it's a very young bird. If it's a very young bird, she still hasn't learned the process. But try to take that hen, mate her to a different cock, and if it's possible, put them into a different section. But that's not terribly unusual. The other thing you can do is when she builds a nest, put a wooden egg in there. And she probably will now take over and set that egg unless she's barren for some reason. So put some wooden eggs in there, and it might put her into the cycle.
Okay. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, I'm throwing this out to you. I bet you didn't think I had anything to say.
I did. You didn't let me finish talking, but go ahead.
Go ahead. I feel chastised.
No, go ahead. Hurry up.
No,
we
you
only got a few
chastised
minutes
me.
before
Dramatic.
we finish. So
What
go
were you
ahead.
going to say?
I'm done.
Oh, I need some white racing homers. If you know anybody that has white racing homers, tell them to call me at Foys or call me at home. I'm not saying I'll buy them, but I'm very particular on who and what I buy. But this white bird release business where they do funerals and so forth has exploded in this country. I just talked to a lady desperate for pigeons. She can't find them, the white birds. She's doing 25 funerals a weekend. 25, but in the process she's been losing birds and she needs more and can't find them. So if you know anybody that wants to sell white racing pigeons, I'm interested.
Somebody asked about the best probiotics. The Ultra Pro is good, which is a probiotic vitamin. Foys probiotics, Dr. Pigeon's rejuvenation, they're all good.
Perfect, no?
Perfect probiotic.
The perfect probiotics probably in the list of what I would choose. Perfect is number
We
one.
won't have that much longer.
Perfect and rejuvenation by Dr. Pigeon are great.
I
We
said
done?
that one.
I know you said exactly
Okay.
that. I was just trying to categorize them by most. See, did it again. I feel so bad.
You're welcome, Tiffany. If you or her have any questions, just give us a call.
How'd you like to live with me?
Approximately how many eggs does a pigeon lay in her life?
In her life?
Yeah.
Well,
never had that question, did you?
In a roundabout sort of a way, the answer is on average 12 eggs a year. But
okay.
On average, if you wanted to figure it out this way, on average, a bird lives to be 8 years old. So
okay.
Assuming they live to 8 times 12 is 96. Pretty good, huh? You didn't think I was going to have an answer, did you?
I did.
Yeah.
You always have an answer. Okay, so we didn't talk about everything we intended to, but I think that was a good show. A lot of questions. Thank you for the questions. We appreciate it, as do the other viewers, I'm sure.
I think that's the most questions we've ever had.
I think so.
And we're having the auction in just a few minutes.
So, when's our next show? I didn't bring none of my notes in. Our next show, we will have a special guest. It is April 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So now we are going to go to the auction. The auction ends at 4:15. We're going to show you the birds. Jerry's going to talk about them. And then we'll also tell you what the bid is up to when we get out there.
Yep,
So,
and if you haven't bid or want to bid again, because bids are coming in, where are they now? Oh, we'll talk about that.
yeah, let's get out there. Okay. So give us a few minutes and we'll be right back.
We'll be ready in 4 minutes and 32 seconds. Thanks a lot for listening up.